Welcome to Alaska Weather, a production of Alaska Public Media and the National Weather Service, Alaska Region. Produced and broadcast daily from the studios of KAKM, Alaska Weather provides complete forecasts, public, marine, and aviation for all of Alaska. Alaska Weather is made possible by the following sponsors.
Cook Inlet Tug and Barge, a marine transportation company specializing in harbor services focusing on the Port of Anchorage and the major commercial participants in the Cook Inlet region, providing customers with marine services specifically tailored to their needs.
The National Weather Service.
Hi everyone, thanks for joining us here on KAKM for Monday's Memorial Day's edition of Alaska Weather. The high fire danger, areas of high to extreme fire danger here are for the 40-mile country in the upper Tanana Valley and also for the upper Yukon Valley, as well as the southern slopes of the eastern Brooks Range here. We've got some dry lightning going on around the Eagle area. That'll probably shift up across the Yukon Valley here later on. And some thunderstorms also are breaking out around Arctic Village earlier. Those have moved up over the north slope here during the afternoon hours. And those conditions should improve on toward midnight and after. Otherwise, looking at the breakup map for May 25th, no watches, no warnings, no advisories out at all now. The flood warning that was out for the Dalton Highway from Outpost 394 to Deadhorse has been canceled. And now you can see some open water there on the Sag, Colville, and Kaparick rivers. So it looks like breakup for 2015 is about come to an end with open to mostly open water on all the other rivers except down at the toward the mouth of the Yukon there and on the Noatak River. But everything looks like any flooding threats are about done, at least due to breakup conditions. On the satellite, here's a band of clouds here that brought the moisture in to the North Gulf Coast yesterday in the Susitna Valley and back to the northwest. That shifted northward last night and today. That brought as much as half an inch of rain to Nome Creek northeast of Fairbanks, while Coldfoot picked up about 4/10 of an inch of rain. And up to 2/10 of an inch fell in the Fairbanks area. That lifting north, skies breaking out, some sunshine, but a lot of mostly cloudy skies here back over south central Alaska on out to the west, but some pretty good sunshine did break out over northern Cook Inlet this afternoon, as well as a big portion of the Copper River Basin, eastern Tanana Valley. A lot of sunshine again here along the southeast coast, just some few variable clouds, some lower clouds right along the coastline there, but pretty fair conditions and winds fairly light. Also had some clearing here over the Yukon-Kuskokwim Delta coastline back down across Cape Newnham, and some pretty good clearing occurring over the Alaska Peninsula and into Bristol Bay. That ahead of the next system that's bringing some gale force winds and rain to the central Aleutians today. The low center back out there to the west, keeping the winds gusty over towards Shimia with quite a bit of shower activity going on to the west of that. And that's all moving eastward here, sliding into the eastern Aleutians here tonight with the wind and the rain up to the Pribilof Island areas and then into the Alaska Peninsula on Wednesday. On the chart, here's the location of the front, roughly early afternoon there, just near the Adak-Atka area there with the gusty winds out in advance of that. Gusting as high as 40 to 45 miles per hour with gale warnings out in these areas. Scattered showers over the eastern Aleutians, Alaska Peninsula area. We had showers scattered around the Kenai Peninsula area and in the Susitna Valley earlier today, excuse me, as well as Kodiak Island, northeast Bristol Bay. And some isolated thunderstorms now showing up in the Kuskokwim Valley there, forming along the eastern Alaska Range and drifting off to the northwest a little bit. And then the shower activity here with this system and the thunderstorms that broke out around Eagle this afternoon and earlier today around Arctic Village, sliding northward over to the eastern north slope. But a lot of clear skies here along the Panhandle, high pressure holding out over the Gulf of Alaska. And that's going to keep the winds mostly from the west and northwest across that area. Could get a little brisk though on Wednesday from the northwest. Looks like 25-knot winds there all along the coast. But for tonight, remnants of that trough bring some showers to the North Gulf Coast, maybe over the Wrangell Mountain areas, but otherwise just a chance of showers over the Kenai Peninsula, Kodiak Island, along the Alaska Range here, and up into the west central interior. Fair skies over the northeast interior, again from the Alaska Range up to the Brooks Range, and then a few showers are possible up there over the north slope to the central Arctic coast, but areas of low clouds and fog, making for some IFR conditions along the eastern Arctic coast tonight with marginal VFR over toward the central coast. Should stay fair and dry here along the west coast from the Nome area down along the Yukon-Kuskokwim River deltas on down to the Alaska Peninsula. Again, this area of rain slides up, gusty winds into the eastern Aleutians with rain on up to the Pribilof Islands, and it becomes more showery back behind. The main low hanging back to the west there. So the front weakening as it pushes eastward. Looks like just small craft advisory level winds for the Alaska Peninsula tomorrow up along the southwest coast, but still looking at some gale force winds in this portion of the front for tomorrow over the northern Bering Sea. And chance of rain pushes up to the coastline tomorrow afternoon. Otherwise, it should be a partly to mostly sunny day here over the southwest interior. Still look for some isolated showers to develop over the Kodiak Island area, Kenai Peninsula, Kamishak Bay along the western Alaska Range. Otherwise, partly to mostly sunny skies here for northern Cook Inlet, Kenai, Anchorage, Palmer, and probably some afternoon showers developing over the Talkeetna Mountains. Otherwise, the Sitna, Matanuska Valley is looking pretty good. Copper River Basin, same story. Isolated showers developing over the mountains there, the Wrangell Mountains up along the Alaska Range, and then probably see some more thunderstorm activity occurring over the 40-mile country, Tok Northway on up toward Eagle, and some isolated showers also a possibility up there over the Brooks Range areas into the northern Koyukuk Valley. Continued low clouds and fog along the eastern Arctic coastline, and big area of low clouds here along the southeast coast and the North Gulf Coast areas there, but really no change from what you've seen the last several days. Should be a partly to mostly sunny time there, both Tuesday and Wednesday. Most of this moisture here, that's going to slide into the Queen Charlottes on Wednesday, so not looking too bad. This front here is going to weaken as it moves inland and bring some rain inland, but really start to fall apart at about this time on Wednesday. So just look for some areas of light rain or drizzle along the coast over the Yukon-Kuskokwim Delta. Bristol Bay, a narrow band down along the Alaska Peninsula areas there, and some showers back up across Norton Sound to toward the Nome area. But back behind us, a few isolated showers. Wind's not really a factor anymore at this front at all, barely a breeze, and then a little more breezy out here, maybe 15 to 25 miles an hour from the south over the west central Aleutian areas. And the next system spreading rain into the far western Aleutians by Wednesday afternoon. Then this low center will move up in toward the central Aleutians Wednesday night and then into the southern Bering Sea on Thursday with probably some more wind and rain. And that's going to keep the south to north flow going over the Bering Sea for probably much of the week. Otherwise, up in the interior, we've got a trough with some showers and isolated thunderstorms developing along on either side of this trough axis from the eastern upper Tanana Valley areas back across the Koyukuk, Kobuk valleys into the Noatak area. A few isolated showers also possible over the eastern north slope, and still low clouds and fog along the north or the Arctic coast, or especially on the east side. Generally easterly flow keeping the western side better, higher flying conditions there. A few isolated showers possible here over the northern panhandle. Otherwise, look for an increase in those northwest winds, again coming up to west-northwest 25 knots along the coast there. Otherwise, another partly to mostly sunny day. And again, showers chances over the northern areas there. Elfin Cove over to Yakutat, maybe into Haines, could see the possibility of some showers. Skagway, maybe Juneau, but just a chance at this point in time. Again, isolated showers and thunderstorms along the eastern Alaska Range, but mostly sunny skies. West-southwest flow around that high in the Gulf of Alaska, actually over the northeast Pacific. Should make for a mostly sunny day there for Kodiak Island and eastern Bristol Bay, southern Cook Inlet. Really pretty, mostly sunny skies actually here from the Kenai Peninsula right up into the valleys and back to the northwest there over the west central interior, looking pretty nice as the showers kind of die off now from what they'll have been over the last couple of days. And temperatures this afternoon down along the southeast coast were in the upper 50s to upper 60s, 58 degrees at Petersburg. Kawak had 62, 68 over at Annette, 67 there at Juneau with a 64 at Skagway, 58 at Yakutat. Cordova came in with 56 today, about the same in Valdez with 57. In the Copper River Basin, Gulkana, lower 60s. And much cooler here up over the Tanana, upper Tanana Valley, 40-mile country with just 68 at Northway. Eagle down to 74 from their run of the 80s they've had for the last several days. 67 in Fairbanks. And again, some of the areas around Fairbanks had a few hundredths of an inch, and other areas picked up upwards of 2/10 of an inch of rain. And up in the upper Yukon Valley there, Fort Yukon at 63. And a 62 at Bettles. The Arctic coast mostly in the mid to upper 30s there, 34 at Dead Horse and Barrow with 39 at Atusuk. Upper 40s on the west side with Point Lay at 48 degrees, 43 at Point Hope, 46 Kivalina. Kotzebue at 45, but to the south, Buckland at 54 degrees. Selawik came in with 63 today. Indian Mountain at 66. Otherwise, McGrath, 60, and then 54 at Sleepmute, and on down the river there at Bethel, 55 degrees, 52 over at Macoriac, and lower 50s along the coastline here, right up to Unalakleet. A little cooler out over the Bering Sea with Gamble at 39. And we'll see lower to mid 40s here for the Pribilofs, and lower 50s along the Alaska Peninsula. Pilot Point just 46 degrees, but Chignik up to 52. Had a 47, some rain showers today at Kodiak, 48 at Unalaska, and 46 at Atka, about the same at Adak, and again, just 39 degrees out there at Shimia. For the lows tonight, lower upper 20s, lower 30s, central and eastern Arctic coast, lower to mid 30s on the west side there, and in the 30s to lower 40s for the North Slope and the Brooks Range areas. Upper Yukon Valley, mostly in the mid to upper 40s, otherwise 40s through the west central interior. Lower to mid 40s here over south central Alaska. Some areas of south central Alaska dropping into the upper 30s tonight. Definitely over the Copper River Basin, mid 30s to lower 40s, and then lows in the 40s here to lower 50s over the southeast coast, and upper 30s and lower 40s for the Bristol Bay area and Alaska Peninsula on out across the Aleutians. Highs for tomorrow kind of rebounding a little bit here over the central interior, back up into the upper 60s to lower 70s, 72 for Fort Yukon, 71 for Fairbanks, and 70 for Tanana. Otherwise, 50s and 60s for the Brooks Range and the North Slope, Arctic coast, not much change, mid 30s to lower to mid 40s up in that area. Upper 40s to lower 60s there over the northwest part of the state, 50s and 60s over the southwest interior, with 50s mid to upper there for the Bristol Bay area. Upper 40s to lower 50s for the Alaska Peninsula and the southeast coast, mostly in the 60s. Flying weather, marginal VFR, again, big area low clouds out here over the northeast Pacific. Now, right up along the coastline for marginal VFR at times along areas of the coast up toward Yakutat back to Cape Yakataga and Cordova. VFR, Prince William Sound, Kenai Peninsula down to Kodiak Island, northward through the interior until you get up to the Arctic coast. Marginal VFR on the central and east side with the IFR there over toward Barter Island and Kaktovik with the fog. And then also with the front coming in toward the southwest coast, areas of marginal VFR and a band of IFR shifting from the eastern Aleutians up to the Alaska Peninsula tomorrow. Marginal VFR developing along the southwest coast with the IFR showing up on the western side of Nunivak Island in the afternoon hours, and then more IFR and marginal conditions back out to the west, but a break here over the eastern and central Aleutians for VFR flying tomorrow and even into the Pribilofs. Anatuvik looks good on either approach, north and south. Adigan, good VFR tomorrow. Lake Clark and Merrill, VFR on both entrances. Rainy VFR. Windy in the entire Alaska Range. All those passes will be open tomorrow with good VFR flying conditions for Tanita and Portage as well. Chilkoot and White, VFR. Freezing levels shows upper level low here in the Gulf of Alaska with a cold pool down to about 4,000 feet here. And this area will be sliding eastward to the northeast Gulf of Alaska on Wednesday. And kind of the warmer air now retreated back into northwest Canada. That reflected the cooling you saw up there today. That'll continue into tomorrow, but again, more sunshine, so temperatures will rebound a little bit up there. And then the southerly flow pulling some warmer air up across the eastern Bering Sea with 6,000 feet, all the way up into the Gulf of Onajar there with 2,000 to 4,000 feet over the west and central Aleutians. And with icing threats, that front coming in, occasional moderate rime icing here for the Alaska Peninsula, spreading up to Nunivak Island, but should stay off the coast through the day tomorrow and then move inland tomorrow night and get hung up here over the southwest part of the state on Wednesday. Hit and miss icing, mixed lower elevations there out to the west, and some areas below 9,000 feet of rime or mixed icing here across the southern interior. And for the upper level wind flow chart, there's that upper level over that cold pool there. That'll be sliding eastward, and that'll keep the chance of showers over the eastern North Gulf Coast and northern Panhandle on Wednesday. Otherwise, southeast flow tomorrow, 40 to 50 knots. Another branch out here over the Bering Sea with that front, that jet stream, 130 knots, pushing that on to the east. 9,000-foot winds look like this. Pretty light and variable here along the southeast coast, but basically from the west at 5 to 10. And southeast winds, 35 to 40 knots here across the Alaska Peninsula along the southwest coast, Nunivak Island up to St. Lawrence Island, the northern Bering Sea. Westerlies up to 30 over the west central Aleutians. Light variable winds at 3,000 feet here over much of the interior, picking up 15 to 25 knots along the coast there, but the stronger winds from the Alaska Peninsula up across just east of the Pribilofs over the eastern Bering Sea and into the northern Bering up to 45 knots, west-southwest 25 to 30 over the Aleutians. Turbulence-wise, a narrow band of occasional to widespread moderate chop here in the turquoise area over the Alaska Peninsula back up toward the Nunivak Island area. Improving conditions turbulence-wise there over the Pribilofs during the afternoon, and then some more moderate chop out over the west central Aleutians. And after the break, hangar flying, I'll be back with a look at the marine forecasts.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Mary O'Connor with the Alaskan Aviation Safety Foundation and the National Institute for Occupational Safety and Health here in Anchorage. Thank you for tuning in to Hangar Flying. This evening, we are back with Brian Soper, who works with the National Transportation Safety Board and is a former air traffic controller and an expert on air traffic control operations with the National Transportation Safety Board. We've been talking about pilot reports, or PIREPs, and their importance in providing real-time weather information to pilots and their other uses within the national airspace system. Welcome back to the show, Brian.
Thanks. It's good to be back.
We know that weather reports can provide critical information to pilots. Why would pilots not provide this information if they knew it would help other people?
Well, we found there's a few reasons that we know of, and we'd actually like to ask that very same question to the pilot community out there. Get us that feedback. What is the fear of giving those PIREPs? But a couple of things just offhand that I can think of is some pilots fear that either it's going to close down an airport for aircraft following behind them, or it's going to put them in a situation of an enforcement type issue or something like that. And so there's a little bit of fear of reprisal maybe to some. And then the other thing is some just are afraid that they might not have the right format. They hear PIREPs supposed to be in a right format, they kind of remember back, they don't want to get it messed up, they don't want to sound like that in the air, so they just go ahead and keep it to themselves and maybe don't pass it, or they get busy and they don't pass it after once they have time to it and to do it so. So but there's a lot of reasons, but that's what we found so far.
Well, it seems that the benefits outweigh any disadvantages.
Absolutely. The benefits far outweigh the disadvantages to passing PIREP information. And I think that almost any pilot will tell you they love to get PIREPs because that's real. They know it came from somebody in the air. That's a real report of weather phenomena that they need to be concerned about. So yeah, certainly the benefits outweigh the disadvantages.
Are you looking at ways to encourage pilots to provide weather reports? Is that part of your investigation while you're here in Alaska?
Absolutely. That falls in that outreach side of things, to dispel rumors and urban legends and anything like that might be out there that's discouraging people from reporting, or maybe those that just don't know quite exactly who they need to call or what they need to do. By all means, we want to clear that up for them, because the more PIREPs we can get in the system, the better off we all are. So yes, we're definitely looking at ways to try to get pilots to report more PIREPs into the system.
So if we have a pilot in the audience who maybe hasn't given a pilot report since their student pilot days. Can you just walk us through who they would call, what frequency they might use, what kind of format, or how and what to report?
Well, there are a multitude of ways that you can pass a PIREP, but if you're airborne, you're in the air, certainly the nearest air traffic control facility and or flight service station would be the best place to go. They'll be there. There are professionals and specialists there to take that PIREP information. I must implore, don't get hung up on the format of PIREPs when you're passing them. If you've encountered a weather phenomena that you feel is important, that other pilots are aware of and the National Weather Service be aware of and those type of things, pass it. Plain language works. If questions need to be asked to hone its accuracy, the controller or specialist will do that, and they can worry about the format, getting it into the system so that it can be disseminated. The most important thing is that we get the data and we get the information.
So that could be through anybody, whether it's tower, approach, departure, TRACON.
Absolutely. If you're talking to air traffic control already, pass it with that agency, with that air traffic control agency that you're with. If you're not talking to air traffic control, if you're VFR departing off a field but you encounter something that you feel is pertinent, if you have the air traffic control frequency handy, dial it up, make the PIREP to air traffic control. They'll take care of it. And it really doesn't matter who it is. They're all one system when it comes to the National Airspace System, so that information will make it out there. So.
Okay. And you touched on this in our previous episode, but if a pilot is having a challenging flight, say there's moderate or even severe turbulence, and they're not comfortable during the flight to make a pilot report, can they call on the ground?
Absolutely. They can call on the ground. Obviously, the sooner, the closest to the time of the encounter is the best. But by all means, if you don't have time or there's too much happening, you can call on the ground. There's various methods to input a PIREP via the internet, through those that have for-flight capability. Lockheed Martin Flight Service has a way. You can call Flight Service Station. They will gladly take your PIREP. So there's definitely a bunch of ways, and we encourage you to do so. Don't just blow it off like I'm on the ground now, so I won't worry about that. Go ahead and make the phone call. Some places you can fax it in if you have fax numbers for flight service. There's a lot of ways to get it there, so don't be afraid to drop it in there.
It certainly sounds like you're giving pilots every opportunity to give a pilot report.
Absolutely.
So thank you, Brian. It's been a real pleasure having you on the show, and I hope that our audience will take it upon themselves to use this information and give some pilot reports.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you. It's been wonderful having this information from a controller's point of view, and pilots out there, please do give a pilot report the next time you're out flying. Until next time, fly safely.
Well, not much ice left here over the northern Bering Sea, just a few ice flows out through here and then some strips up here south of the strait, and that's all forecast to melt away over the next 5 days. So then we'll be shifting the view up here more over the Chukchi Sea and the Arctic coast. For the southeast coast, westerlies 15 on the north coast, northwest 20 over the south coast and inside waters, southerlies kicking up to 25 knots, northern Lynn Canal tomorrow afternoon. And then for Wednesday, we've got small craft advisories here all along the coastline, 25-knot winds from the west and then northwest, seas 6 to 8 feet. Northwest 15 to 20 here over the inside waters, Frederick Sound, Stevens Passage, down across Clarence Strait, northern Lynn Canal, south at about 20 for Wednesday afternoon. And for the North Gulf Coast, southwest 10 for Prince William Sound, otherwise the North Gulf Coast west-southwest at about 15, southwesterlies at 15 down around Kodiak Island, southerlies 15 for Cook Inlet. And for Wednesday, not much change, southwest about 20 knots with westerlies 25 knots for the North Gulf Coast areas, no change for Prince William Sound. Bristol Bay, southeast 20, and then small craft advisory winds with a front coming in there for the Alaska Peninsula, 25 to 30 knots. And then for Wednesday, looking like no change for Bristol Bay, and then lighter winds from the south here for the Alaska Peninsula and southerlies from Sitkinak to Chignik at about 20. Out in the Aleutian, small craft advisories here for the western areas right over to Adak and Atka, otherwise southwest, 15 to 20 knots for the Fox Islands. And then for the Wednesday outlook, pretty light winds out here to the west, southerlies of 20 knots through the central Aleutians, and south to southwest 10 to 15 is all for the Fox Islands. Southwest coast, southeast winds, small craft advisories, 25 to 30 knots here right up across St. Lawrence Island. Got some gales here over the northern Bering Sea from, well, across this entire St. Matthew Island zone. Then behind the front, winds coming down to 20 knots for the Pribilofs with seas running at about 7 feet. And then for Wednesday, southerlies at about 20 here for the northern Bering Sea. South winds just about everywhere, but lighter, only in the 15 to 20 knot range, and then southwest breeze at 10 there into Kuskokwim Bay. And for the Arctic coast, light variable winds on the central coast. On the west side, light northeast winds, Wales to Cape Thompson north at 15 in the forecast, and easterlies 20 to 25 knots along the eastern Beaufort Sea coastline. And then those get a little more variable and lighter on Wednesday, northeast 10 for the central coast, east 10 for the east central coastline, and then the far eastern one southeast at about 20. 25 knot easterlies here for the western Arctic coast, brisk wind advisories there, otherwise east at about 20 here for the remainder of the coastline. And for tonight, we've got this front pushing rain and gusty winds in toward the eastern Aleutians, and the Pribilof Islands tonight become showery back behind with still some pretty brisk west-northwest winds over towards Shimmy and Attu. Isolated showers, Kenai Peninsula, Kodiak Island, up along the Alaska Range and into the Kuskokwim Valley areas and the west central interior. Thunderstorms this evening giving way to better conditions later tonight and fair skies. And that's the same story for the southeast coast, fair skies. A few isolated showers possible here with that upper level trough there over the eastern Yakutat area and into the Wrangell Mountains. For tomorrow, this front pushes rain across the Alaska Peninsula. Again, small craft advisory winds, and then this front will break up as it moves inland on Wednesday with pushing a little bit of rain farther to the east, but pretty fair, mostly sunny, partly to mostly sunny, light winds over the west central interior. Have a great evening. Thanks for joining us.
These forecasts are to be used for planning purposes only. Call 1-800-WX-BRIEF for a formal pre-flight briefing. Always file a flight plan before you go flying. The U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary urges you to leave a float plan with a friend or the harbor master before you go boating. Alaska Weather is made possible by the following sponsors.
The National Weather Service.
Cook Inlet Tug and Barge, a marine transportation company specializing in harbor services focusing on the Port of Anchorage and the major commercial participants in the Cook Inlet region, providing customers with marine services specifically tailored to their needs.